Hello and welcome, Gunpla fans of YouTube. This is going to be part one of my review of the perfect grade Gundam Exia lighting version. In this part of the review, I'm going to be covering the frame, the internal frame basically of this kit, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the electronics involved in the lighting version of this kit here. As you can see right here, I have the frame all put together and everything. It's on its base. Unfortunately, I can't really put it on my spinny round table here because it's just too big. It's almost a little too big for my photo booth here, but I tried to get as much of it in the frame as I can here. I will bring it a little closer to the camera so you can take a closer look at it here. But I gotta say, I have been enjoying the build of this kit here. That's something that I found a little surprising about this thing. I know I may be a little late to the party in reviewing this kit here because I know everybody else has jumped on the bandwagon and gotten it out right away in the first couple weeks of December. I got mine in about the middle of December, and you know what? I decided I was going to take my time working on this kit and just enjoy the build. I'm not going to rush my way through this thing here because I want to savor it. And that is what I'm doing. I am savoring this thing. And I can tell you, this is an amazing kit so far from what I have been building and experiencing with it. It's amazing. It really is. So anyway, let's get into a closer look at this guy here. So here is the perfect grade Exia frame, a little closer up. It's a little hard to see because it's so dark. It's a very dark gray brown plastic color. It's kind of a weird color for an internal frame, but I guess it works okay. I did go ahead and add a few little highlight details with my Molotov chrome marker on this thing. A few in the vents there in the head, and just some little minor details kind of throughout the kit here, just to kind of bring a little bit of highlighted detail throughout it here. As you can see, there's a lot more on the legs here. But the internal frame detail, it's not quite up to the same level as what I saw on the perfect grade Strike Gundam, but it's pretty much up there. I mean, I definitely am enjoying this here. It's not terribly complicated. It's just a little simple in some places. So, but I say just as a basic Gunpla kit, if you're buying the non-lighted version, it's a pretty easy build, I would say. Now, adding in the wires and the electronics does up the complication factor quite a bit on this, because you have to kind of plan ahead with the wiring. If you pay attention to the manual, I do strongly suggest you pay attention to the manual on this. It will kind of direct you how to guide the wire in such a way so that it will not kink up. Usually when you're trying to build it, they'll usually have it, you build it at a joint so that the wire is kind of stretched out when it's bent, and then when you curl it up, the wire will not kink up. So if you do it properly, you won't have to worry so much about the joints getting kinked up on this thing. I'd probably say that the trickiest areas of wiring are going to be up in the shoulders here. You have to kind of pass a couple wires through a little space that's right here, and then kind of make sure you get the orientation of the plugs oriented correctly here before you do that here. Otherwise, you can kind of get this all tied up in a very weird way that'll kind of kink the wires up. Probably the other area that is a little complicated is probably up inside the upper leg here. Kind of the same issue here, but it's not really as bad. You just got to make sure you tuck the wires in as you're putting this together. It's something you kind of have to do like two things at the same time here. You have to kind of keep the wires tucked together and then assemble this upper leg onto this ball hip part, or this part here at the same time here. So it can get a little tricky to do, but it's not that terribly hard to do. But other than that, I think the rest of it is pretty straightforward the way it's described in the directions. Now, an interesting note are the GN condensers on here. They use sort of a really interesting sticker combination system on the condensers here. I'll kind of show you a picture here of what I'm talking about here, but basically you have like a regular sticker that's basically mostly black color, but it's slightly transparent a little bit, and you put that on first on the inside, and then you put this silver foil sticker on the back, which basically will make this center area opaque on the condenser, so that because the LED is going to be like directly behind this, so that when it turns on, it doesn't just blow out the entire GN condenser look and just shines around the outside, kind of just making it glow very nicely. And it's a very, very good effect here. Now when it comes to basically the overall articulation with the wiring and everything here, it's actually still pretty good even with the wiring on here. I really haven't noticed any areas where there's a limitation. I mean, obviously there's a wire right on the back of the head here. I don't know if you can see that in the light, but it's right here. So obviously the head's not going to turn all the way around with that wire there, but even with it there, it can look left and right really well. So there's really no issue there. Can look back a little bit, not too far. I expect it's probably going to be a little bit less when the armor is actually put on there. But the neck can bend forward pretty well. There's like a double joint in the neck here. Bends forward up here, then it kind of separates at the bottom here to look down a little bit further. Right there, as you can see. Now up in the torso and the upper body here, there's actually several joints inside the shoulder here. And it works pretty nicely here. It can actually bend back a little bit like that, and can bend forward all the way forward like so. Basically going straight forward like that. So really, really good. It can kind of lift up just a little bit. There's a little bit of a joint right there. These internal shoulder joints I found are really, really stiff, so you might want to be a little careful with bending these. Just my suggestion here. But you can bend the arm up about that far. I mean, this is actually pretty good overall. I mean, obviously there are kits that can do a lot more than this, even in the master grade and the high grade category, but I'd say considering all the wiring and all the stuff that's going on in here, this is actually very, very good. Now the arm will rotate. It's not going to go all the way around because again there's wiring in here and you don't want to tie the wires up, but you should be able to get some good poses out of it with the articulation level that you have here. And this little piece up here is where the GN particle cable kind of connects into this upper part here. You can kind of straighten it out a little bit, and it connects into the bottom right here. Now I do want to mention something I noticed, that this is a soft silicone piece right here, so it has a good deal of flexibility. But I have noticed there is one downside with this thing here, and because it is such a soft rubbery piece, it does attract dust like a magnet, so you want to be really careful about that. I have noticed already that there is dust accumulating and sticking to these silicone parts here, and they are kind of difficult to keep clean. They can't just blow it off like I can on the rest of the kit here. You have to go in here and actually wipe it off. So it is kind of a little bit of a nuisance, but I guess it's just something I'm gonna have to put up with this on it. Now in the arms here, we have a very good double joint here. As you can see, there is no issue with the wiring that kind of runs through here. The upper arm has a joint kind of in that lower area right there, so we can bend right there. Again, it's not going to go all the way around because there is a wire that runs through there. And as we move down the arm here, we do have the hand on here. Now these are the multi-jointed full articulation hands. I guess you want to call them the emotive manipulators if you want. These are the only hands that actually have a joint inside the wrist here, so you can move the hand around like so and even have it bend down like that as well. They do have a little peg on the inside for holding weapons. See if I can pull this one out. There it is right there. And as mentioned, all the fingers are pretty much fully articulated. Except for the thumb though. The thumb is actually just two pieces though. So the actual end of the thumb doesn't actually move. It's actually just one piece up here. So it's really just two pieces on the thumb here. The rest of the fingers are all three pieces. So you can do all sorts of little posing with the hands if you want. So it's kind of nice that Bandai still gives you this option here, even though you're probably not going to use these for holding the weapons. Holding weapons, because you do have the much more solid and superior fixed pose hands that the kit comes with. I also want to kind of make a note that these hands do not come pre-assembled with the kit. All the individual joints you will have to cut out of the sprue runner and denub and clean up yourself, and let me tell you, that is a tedious process here, so you might want to set aside some time for these things here, because I think these hands here alone, both of them, that probably took me about more than a couple hours to do just the hands, so you might want to make sure you set aside some time for that. But enough about the hands, let's continue on with the torso here. As you can see right there, I have the pilot figure inside the cockpit there. I have Setsuna F. Seiki in there. I didn't paint him up or anything or do anything. I just used some panel line wash to kind of bring out some details, and I kind of tried to color in his visor a bit. But really that's all I was going to do with him, so I just kind of stuck him in there. There does appear to be like a little drop down screen on this little clear part here. So if you're going to paint the kit, you might want to paint these things in, or you can try to figure out some sort of light piping system if you want to light up the cockpit a little bit. You probably might be able to do that here. But moving on down a little further here, we have the bottom torso, and there's some interesting stuff going on in the bottom here. So obviously we got a rotation joint right here, pretty good. Again, it's not going to rotate all the way around because you got wires that run through here. But what's interesting here is the leaning here. So there's this system here, like so. So this is actually really interesting here. So these little sides of the torso here will kind of move around as the kit leans back and forth here. So this is really cool here. There is a little bit of back and forth motion on the torso. It moves forward about that much and doesn't really move back at all. So that's about all you're going to get out of that. So getting on down to the hips here. Very good range of motion out of these hips here, despite having wires running through them. You can go all the way from like that. You can go all the way back like so. Splits wise, it can go only really about this far, and that's really a limitation of the physical parts. That's not really because of the wiring. I suppose if you wanted to, you could modify this to make it to give you a greater range of motion at the risk of stretching the wires, but that will be up to you if you want to do anything like that. Now there is like an additional joint inside the hip here. It's a little hard for me to demonstrate on here because I don't have all the parts on here that hold it together properly, but basically this back piece will come up to kind of unlock it here, and you have to kind of carefully pull it apart here, and it will bend the whole hip joint forward like you've seen on many other master grades and perfect grade kits. So you do have that option to kind of increase your range of motion with the legs here. Alright, well, moving on further down the leg here, we do got a rotation joint in the upper leg here. Pretty good there. As we move on down, there is a double joint inside the leg here, one joint up in here and one joint here. So to bend the leg, you can bend right there, and the other bend is going to be inside here. So you can bend all the way around like so. Very good. Now the knee armor doesn't really bend around or anything on here, so there really isn't any moving armor panels while this kit moves around. So if you're looking forward for anything like that, this kit doesn't really do that. Now as we move on down to the bottom of the leg here, there is a little piece that moves right here. This is going to be for that little bit of front ankle armor that's going to be right here. As you move on down to the foot here, there is a joint up here that gives a nice range of motion to the foot right there. And in here we have another joint that kind of lets the foot bend side to side like so. And there is a joint up here that allows the toe to bend down. And there is a little toe joint in the front here. Now moving on to the back here, I do have the GN drive here. It's all built and completed. It does have all the opening hatches on here to simulate the full burst mode of the GN drive. I'll probably show that off a little bit more in the completed version of the kit here, but I'll just kind of let you taking a little preview of it right now here. But really what I want to show you here is basically the GN drive is kind of the key to making everything work on here with the electronics here. And you can easily just kind of pop this out like so. And as you can see, there are the contacts on the back here and the contacts on the inside right there. Basically, the electronics on the entire kit will not function without the GN drive plugged in. So if you want the lights on the kit to work, you have to have the GN drive. So the GN drive is pretty important. Now right underneath here we do have the wire, the main power wire for the kit here. It's right here. There's like a little slot right here you can kind of tuck it into when you have the kit off the base, and just when I want to keep that tucked away, you can just stick it right there. But alright, I showed off the wiring, the kit. I bet you want to look at the lighting here. So let's put this guy back on the base here. Actually, before I do that, I do want to talk about the base a little bit here since I have it. So this is the base that the Perfect Grade Exia lighting version comes with here. The standard version of the Perfect Grade Exia does come with the same base plastic, just not with the electronics on it. If you have the non-lighting version, you're going to have this little hatch here flipped around the other way, so that yours will look more like this here. But with the lighting version, as you can see, we have the power pack in here that takes 4 AA batteries. They go right in here. And this little hatch you just kind of stick on, plug that in, and it stays together here. Now on this little arm here, we do have a couple of adjustments we can do on the arm when the kit is on here. The actual kit just hooks onto this little piece right here. It's very easy to slide on, slide off of that. And here's your power wire right there here. But there is a height adjustment tab right here. Just kind of flip that up. And you can move this up and down about that far. And up on the top here, we do have a tab for this hinge at the top here. So it won't go down too far with the kit on there, but it will go up quite a ways, about that far, actually all the way backwards if you want for some reason. But that gives you a little bit of range when trying to pose the kit on the stand here. Now one really neat thing they have on the kit here is this little assembly that's on the back here. So you basically just pull this out, and basically this is a separate display port for the GN drive here. Basically to kind of make it look like the Exia is in some sort of service mode while it's on the stand here. And as you can see, this has the same sort of contact plug on the inside here for the GN drive here. And it works exactly the same way. You just pop the GN drive in, close the clamps, and there you go. You have that on there. And since I have it on there, I'll go ahead and turn on the lights for you here. So you see this nice little spin up animation with the lights there. Spins up, and then it becomes a constant green color here. So pretty cool. Alright, so let's get this guy back on the stand and plug back in so I can show off the rest of the lighting here. Now I do want to make note of something here. You probably are going to be unplugging and disconnecting this kit quite often, taking it off the pose, work on it, plug it back in to check the lights, take it off the build, check the lights again. You're going to be doing this a lot when you're working on this kit here. So I have learned that with this plug here, if you're going to be doing that, don't plug it in all the way. Just sort of push it in till it stays in. And then when you need to remove it, it's very easy to unplug. I've discovered that if you plug this in all the way, it is really hard to get it back apart again. So don't do that. If you're going to be unplugging it a lot, just kind of plug it in halfway. The contacts will still touch each other and the kit will still light up. But you run less of a risk of actually damaging the plug or the wire when you're unplugging it repeatedly, so I would suggest probably doing that. But anyway, let's get him on the slot here. Kind of work him on there. Just pops right on. There you go, and he's on there. Alright guys, are you ready to see the lighting system? I'm going to go ahead and turn the light off because it looks best that way, so I'm going to go ahead and make it dark. So when you press the button the first time, it's going to do this kind of startup sequence here. It kind of starts up the GN drive in the back and it lights up only the torso and the head sensors. You press the button again and that's when the GN condenser cables turn on. You get this nice little blue effect throughout all the cables here. Looks really nice. Now you got this third mode here. You press the button. And this is sort of a halfway between the normal GN condenser blue color and halfway into Trans Am. So you'll see in this mode the kit will kind of fluctuate a bit between the blue and kind of a light red on the GN cables here. And it's kind of just it's like the Exia is like it's getting angry here. The rage is building here. So, and if you press the button a fourth time, you get Trans Am, the nice pinkish red Trans Am colors here. Looks really nice, and the GN drive in the back and the sensor in the front will kind of turn more of a gold yellow color here. The sensors in the head will brighten up quite a bit here, and a lot of the various GN condensers will basically turn a red color here, except for the ones on the arms here. They kind of have sort of a mix between a light blue and red on them, which looks a little weird, but it's not really that big a deal. Actually, I'll just let you have a little closer look at that here. So as you can probably see, it's kind of like half blue, half red in there, but it's not that too terribly distracting here. But on the side of the leg here, it's a nice little red color. Very nice. I do also kind of want to point out one little flaw here, if you can kind of see what it is. In the normal blue GN drive cable color, it's not so bad, but in Trans Am, it's kind of a lot more apparent. But the light piping in the lower leg here doesn't really turn out very well in Trans Am mode, I've noticed here. So it needs a little bit of a brighter light down there in Trans Am. And if you press the button a fourth time, that will deactivate it. And this puts it into a deactivation sequence, which is really nice, but it's very, very brief. So try not to blink or you will miss it here. There it goes. And if you notice, the actual cable is turned sort of a deep orange-red color just for a moment before it turned off. It's a really, really nice color, and I really kind of wish there was a way to keep it like that, but you can't. It only lasts for a couple seconds here. And as you can see right now, the kit is actually cycling through its lighting sequence on its own. This is the other mode that this thing has, where it's kind of an automatic lighting sequence mode. It'll cycle through the different stages of lighting here for you automatically here. It'll start going into that kind of in-between mode here in just a moment here. And it kind of goes on for, I think it does this for a few minutes here before it actually will kind of automatically turn off the lighting system on here. If you press the button again, it'll just kind of turn everything off and reset. One thing I have noticed with this guy is that if you leave them turned on but the light's off, he will kind of turn on occasionally and flash the sensors, the head and the sensor a little bit here. See if I can catch him doing that here. Yep, there it goes. Yeah, see, it kind of flashes like a couple of times if you leave the power switch on. I guess that's kind of meant to kind of get your attention, letting you know that, hey, you still have me turned on. Are you going to turn me off or just going to leave me here? So I guess it's just a way to try and get your attention here. Alright guys, that's going to be it for the first part of the Perfect Grey Gundam Exia review. This is basically just the internal frame and some of the lighting system on it here. I hope you enjoyed that and found this informative or interesting. Be sure to leave a like below, or if you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. And stay tuned for part 2, which I will get to soon, hopefully. So anyway guys, thanks for watching, and I will see y'all next time. Bye-bye.